If your goal is weight loss, you need to keep in mind the golden rule of energy balance.
Here we go.
Regardless of whether the calories that you did eat came from a steak, a potato, or a popsicle, it's called being in a calorie deficit.
It's called starving yourself like an idiot. Why would you want to do that?
There are two main issues with all severely restrictive diets that wholesale eliminate.
You're talking about calorie deficit. That sounds like a restricted diet. I eat in abundance. I eat to satiety. I stuff my face with steak and eggs and butter. Beautiful. Every single day. What's restricting about that? Hey everyone. One of my subscribers sent me this to react to, and so that's what I'm going to do. Let's have a look.
If you want to lose weight or reduce inflammation, you might be considering going carnivore. In this episode, we're going to tell you the truth about the carnivore diet. What you learn will probably surprise you, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about the carnivore diet, so let's get right into it. What comes to mind when you hear the word carnivore? For me, it evokes images of a scruffy-haired caveman squatting over a lion or a zebra, just digging in with both hands.
I just picture any organism that's designed to eat mostly meat, and we are one of those organisms.
I guess that's not actually accurate, though, since cavemen probably ate mostly plants, I'm guessing.
You're guessing, right, okay. That's nonsense. We know for a fact that cavemen ate 80% fatty animal products, and all humans, pre-humans, have eaten 80% around about fatty animal products, mostly from ruminant animals. That's red meat. None of salads, though. So we didn't eat mostly plants. How can you eat mostly plants? Go out in the wild and tell me how you get on trying to survive eating mostly plants.
After all, grabbing a lion by the tail is probably not that easy.
Which is why we would never have done that.
The word carnivore keeps popping up in my social media feed, and we get asked about it a couple of times a month, so let's talk about it today. Is the carnivore diet healthy and good for weight loss?
Yes. Fat loss. Let's be specific. Fat loss. Yeah, if you're fat and you want to lose some of that fat, going carnivore will help you very, very well. Is it healthy? Yes. Why? Because when you eat a load of red meat, when you eat some eggs, you're intaking all of the essential nutrients. We absorb all of them. There's no culprits, inflammatory molecules or anything. And so, of course, it's healthy.
Let's start with some definitions. A carnivore is an animal that eats flesh, or a flesh-eating mammal of the order Carnivora, comprising of dogs, cats, bears, seals, and weasels. I got that
63% of the animal kingdom is carnivorous.
From the dictionary. What we are talking about here is a diet comprised mostly of meat. Imagine what a vegan or a vegetarian would eat and then think of the exact opposite.
Yeah, picture a vegan diet that's destitute of nourishment. If you're on a vegan diet of some kind, you have to supplement. A carnivore diet, you can supplement if you so choose. That's the difference.
Picture what James Cameron told you to do in his movie The Game Changers and then go 180 degrees in the other direction.
I wouldn't listen to film directors about what you should be eating.
Eat 100% animal-derived food. No fruits, no vegetables, no grains, no sugar, no carbohydrates.
Yeah, none of that, because all of it's non-essential. We don't require any of that. No carbs, no glucose, right? And why would we want to eat things like fiber, gluten, lectins, anti-nutrients? I certainly wouldn't.
Hardcore carnivores even avoid dairy since
I wouldn't say hardcore carnivores avoid dairy. I would say people that are intolerant to dairy avoid dairy.
Lactose is also technically sugar.
Sure, galactose, glucose, it's all actually metabolized as glucose in the end. But obviously, if you're trying to be mindful of your carbohydrate intake, it's probably not a good idea to overeat dairy, certainly things like milk. There are some nuances, with certain people. Some people are just casein intolerant, and for that reason, why would you want to consume dairy?
So what can you eat on the carnivore diet? Well, meat, of course, but also fish, eggs, bone marrow, lard, tallow, and non-carbohydrate containing condiments as long as they aren't made from plants. You're going to become good friends with your butcher if you decide to go carnivore.
Hopefully, it's a good idea, supporting your local butcher and you're sourcing locally. That's good for everything and everyone. So,
load up your cart with ground beef, steaks, pork, bacon, fish, chicken, ribs.
I feel like we've been through this over and over again. I feel like you just keep saying what the carnivore diet is. It's pretty obvious.
Eggs and everything that falls into the category of meat. You might want to snag some overtime at work too, because last time I checked, meat is not cheap these days.
Nor is being sick, nor is being on medications, nor is eating multiple meals a day and having social alcoholic beverages and all this kind of stuff, most of which carnivores don't entertain.
With all the rest of the groceries out there. At its core, the carnivore diet is a low carb or no carb diet because meat just doesn't have carbohydrates in it. It's all protein and fat.
There'll be traces and things like eggs and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're having dairy, there's more than traces, but everybody's different. Some do dairy, some don't.
And low carbohydrate diets are just not a new thing. We've talked about them.
They're certainly not. It's the oldest diet in the book. We weren't able to eat just carbohydrates all day long, because if you go out in the wild right now, good luck finding carbohydrates that you can just munch down on all day long, all year round. It's only in modernity where we monocrop and ship in vessels all these carbohydrates, these plant foods, to all these stores, so it's available 24/7, 365 days a year. That's not normal. Well, it's become normal, but it's certainly not natural.
Many times on this podcast. They come and go like bull and bear markets, being resurrected with slightly different rules and a new name every few years. Back in the early 2000s, low carb was called Atkins.
Atkins also included seed oils and things like salads, and then typically you reintroduce certain foods and things like that. That's not the proper human diet. The proper human diet is to eat in line with our genetics. Ruminant meat, eggs. If you can tolerate pork, chicken, fish, go ahead and do so. Some people do very, very well on fish. Some people can't tolerate meat from monogastric animals or fish, for example. And so those people have to go on a lion diet. Sorry, it's got a label, but to be clear with people what we're talking about, things need labels.
Nowadays, it's called keto and carnivore. Regardless of what you call it, there are some very loud voices shouting the benefits of the carnivore diet from the tops of the butcher shops.
Must be for a reason, I guess. Probably because it works.
So what are the potential benefits of the carnivore diet? And
To me, that sounds like, what are the benefits of eating food? What are the benefits of eating human-compatible substrate? What are the benefits of eating all the essential nutrients? It kind of sounds silly when you put it like that, but it's true.
benefits stand up to logic and research. One of the most commonly touted benefits of the carnivore diet is fat loss. So let's talk about it. If you're not eating carbs, you're going to be eating a lot of the two remaining macronutrients, protein and fat.
It's not just two macronutrients. We're talking about all the essential nutrients are found within those macronutrients. That's what's important here.
The commonly mentioned line is that you'll be eating a lot of fat, which makes you burn more fat.
No, not eating a lot of fat makes you burn more fat. Who says that? That's ridiculous. It's about using fat metabolism rather than glucose metabolism, which is a really good idea if you care about your health. And when you're tapped into your fats and you're overweight, you're going to start shedding that fat and losing that fat, which is a good thing.
The more scientific explanation of what's going on is that when you severely restrict carbohydrates, your body will switch its energy source to ketones instead of glucose from carbohydrates.
Yes, we do this by oxidizing fatty acids at the liver to create ketone bodies. And our cells in our body, our brains, our heart, mitochondria, love ketones.
Dietary fat that you're eating can then be burned for energy in the absence of carbs. This process and the state that it causes is called ketosis, but it doesn't inherently change how much body fat you have on your body. Think back.
Well, it seems to. When everybody goes carnivore, they often lose a lot of body fat. They start losing body fat, whereas before they couldn't even begin to start losing body fat. Why wouldn't we want to do that?
To what you know about the basics of the human body. You burn calories for energy.
We're not burning anything, but okay.
Your food contains that energy. It can come in the form of protein, carbohydrates, and fat.
If we're going to talk on calorie terms, they're not created equally, right? Fats, proteins, carbohydrates, they're totally different. And we are not a closed thermodynamic system, and so you can't account for energy in, energy out. This whole calories in, calories out BS, it's nonsense.
All three of those macronutrients have calories, and all of their calories count. If your goal is weight loss, you need to keep in mind the golden rule of energy balance.
Here we go. I mean, I feel like just skipping past this point, but
the relationship between the calories in versus the calories out.
Tell that to people that have been in a calorie deficit for years and years, and they're still metabolically sick. They're still overweight. They still weigh the exact same, if not more. Explain it to those people, because I'm pretty sure that they're fed up and frustrated hearing this nonsense because they've done it for years. And then people just deny the fact that they've done it. They'll say, oh no, well clearly you were still in a calorie surplus. It's like, no. And I, in the beginning on carnivore, was consuming way above my calories, my so-called calories, right? Yeah, I lost body fat. So explain that. There's more to it than just energy in, energy out.
The number of calories you eat as opposed to the number of calories.
We don't eat calories, guys. We eat food. And when I say food, I mean steak, eggs.
That you burn. As long as you're in a negative energy balance, meaning you're eating less than you're burning.
Yeah, let's just starve ourselves. Let's undereat. That's a really good idea. Have you ever seen an animal in nature undereat? Yeah, they're all lean. I wonder why that is. What's the common theme here? Carnivores get lean and lose body fat, and return to their optimal weight. Animals in nature are lean. I wonder what the common theme is. Maybe they're just eating actual food, what they're designed to eat, and they're not eating things that they're not designed to eat.
You'll burn your body fat to make up that difference, regardless of whether the calories that you did eat came from a steak, a potato, or a popsicle. It's called being in a calorie deficit.
Yeah, it's called starving yourself like an idiot. Why would you want to do that?
Maybe you're thinking, but wait, if you're not eating carbs, won't you burn more fat? But if you're not in a calorie deficit, you'll be burning all the fat that you're eating, not the fat that's on your belly. And
this guy really needs to actually research a little more before he starts making videos about the carnivore diet, or any diet for that matter. He doesn't seem to be very well equipped with knowledge to even understand sort of metabolic process and these nuances that completely debunk CECO, calories in, calories out.
at the end of the day, you can lose body fat on any diet that puts you into a calorie deficit, regardless.
Tell that to the people that have been in a calorie deficit for years and years, and they still weigh the exact same, if not more.
Of what foods you ate or you restricted. If you lost weight on the carnivore diet, you lost weight because you ate less calories as a result of.
Totally false. 100% totally false. I lost body fat on the carnivore diet eating more calories than I was supposed to eat, right? Way beyond my maintenance. Never ate so much in my life. My partner Lucy went carnivore. Guess what? She was eating 4,000 plus calories or whatever she was eating. And she lost body fat. She's only used to eating about 1,800 calories, so explain that.
Calorie restriction. Eating meat didn't melt the body fat off your body.
Who's saying that eating meat melts the body fat off? We're talking about eating food and allowing our bodies to function better, to heal, seal the gut, to regain proper hormonal functioning. And now our bodies tick over and work properly. Our satiety signals work properly and hunger signals work properly. And then we're in tune with our body, and we basically do what every other animal in nature does. We eat what we're supposed to eat to satiety, like I do every day. I eat in abundance, like a king. Red meat and eggs every day. So many calories, yet I'm the same healthy weight that I've been for like the last 2 years.
I hope that's very, very clear. Second on the list of claims most often mentioned in the pro-carnivore conversation is reduced inflammation.
Of course, because there are no inflammatory culprits in red meat. The ruminant animals have 4 stomachs. By the time they've processed whatever they eat, it's probably the least inflammatory food, even when they're eating crap. I mean, look at Michaela Peterson, for example. She eats a lot of grain-fed, grain-finished, at least, ruminant meat, and she has no issues. Why? It's because it's the purest food on the planet. So, of course, it lowers inflammation because the culprits are found in everything else. Now, for some people, eggs are a problem. So, well, don't eat eggs. Try the yolks. Or it's still a problem? Take out eggs. That's basically what a lot of us have to do. We have to continue to eliminate, and then perhaps you want to try the lion diet, which is the ultimate elimination diet. I wonder why, because you've only got red meat left. Why is it the most sensitive people on the planet can only eat red meat? It's because it's non-inflammatory, so it's going to allow our bodies to heal. And that's why we're lowering inflammation, because we're giving our body all the essential nutrients, and we're not inflaming unnecessarily with different plant proteins, fiber, sugar, polyunsaturated fats, seed oils, chemicals, binders, stabilizers. The list goes on. You don't find this in ruminant meat.
Reducing inflammation, that sounds like a good idea. Well, what exactly is inflammation anyway? Inflammation is an immune response to having an irritant in our bodies. Have you ever had a splinter that you didn't get out right away? I bet the next day it was a little sore, a little swollen, and probably red. You were seeing inflammation. It's a natural defense mechanism that tries to protect your body from harm and to help you heal. Inflammation in this case is good.
Inflammation in every case is good. There is no such thing as bad inflammation.
Inflammation can be bad in other cases too, like chronic inflammation.
It's not the inflammation, is it? It's what's triggering the chronic inflammation. So you need to figure out what's causing the inflammation. That's bad. Stop doing that. If I liked running into a wall, for example, right? Bad idea. The inflammation that occurs afterwards, good idea. So it's not the inflammation that's bad, it's the thing that causes the inflammation that's bad, right? So stop running into brick walls, basically.
Diseases cause a miscommunication in your immune system that causes your body to attack your otherwise healthy cells. Some examples of this are Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and psoriasis.
These all sit on a foundation of leaky gut. We heal and seal the gut on only red meat. So what causes leaky gut? Inflammatory culprits found in plants. Seed oils, for example, and the oxidized molecules in seed oils, lectin proteins, wheat proteins, like gluten, gliadin in particular, the component of gluten proteins, very, very problematic. Fiber can cause issues. Casein in dairy can even cause issues, which is why some people don't want any plants or any dairy. You want to be on a lion diet, right? So if we do have inflammation, that's not bad. We need to figure out what's causing it.
When you have elevated levels of inflammation in your body, certain chemicals are measurably more prevalent. A 2013 study took 55 obese participants and divided them up into two different groups. One group went super low carb, and the other ate about 60% of their daily calories from carbohydrates. After the 3-month study, the group that ate super low carb had decreased levels of blood markers that signaled inflammation compared to the group that ate all those carbs. So there you go. Carbs cause inflammation, right? Well, not so
I don't know what study he's talking about. I don't care. I don't put much worth and value into these so-called scientific nutrition studies.
fast. They didn't take some pretty darn important things into account in this study. Are all carbs created equal? Was the carb group eating Twinkies and chasing it with a slice of cake? I'd say that the source of the carbs just might have an impact on inflammation and your overall health.
Sure, in as far as I would say, and this might surprise people, just off the top of my head, whole grains versus refined grains. Say we've got brown rice and white rice. The brown rice, it's got the fiber, it's got the gluten, it's got the lectins. These aren't good. They're not good for your gut, right? Now, if we've got the refined white rice, I would say that's better. But there are nuances. What if you've got type 2 diabetes? You're not going to really want to be consuming white rice. Yes, there are healthier carbohydrates than others. For example, birthday cake compared to blueberries. Right? Of course, one is better than the other. But when we're talking about the actual carbohydrate content itself, it's all just sugar. Carbohydrates are made of sugar molecules. Is sugar good? No. We make our own sugar. We don't need to consume any excess sugar. When you consume excess sugar, you have to take it out of the blood, which means insulin. And this can just basically lead to a cascade of problems for a lot of people. And so we want to keep carbohydrates to a minimum for your own physiology. Figure out, how much do I really need? For me, for example, I need practically 0, and I do best that way. There are some people that might want 10, 15, 20, 25 grams. I would say 50 grams max. Why on earth would anybody be consuming 100, 250 grams of carbohydrates every day? That's just absurd.
Just as important, something else not accounted for in the study was that the low carb group was eating much more protein than the carb group was, about twice as much to be specific. Did the increased protein play a factor in reducing inflammation? Maybe so. One thing to note is that some people do have a negative immune response to certain foods. Most commonly, these foods are called FODMAP foods.
Ignore the FODMAPs. What a load of old crap, basically. I had gut issues, and the FODMAPs wouldn't have helped me, right? There's still lots of fiber and indigestible materials within those plants, right? It's just lots of sugar, all the anti-nutrients. If you're sensitive, you should not be eating any plants. You shouldn't be turning to the FODMAP diet, like, all certain plants. No. Get rid of the plants, get rid of the dairy, go on a lion diet, seal your gut, then start experimenting. Reintroduce things back in, see what you can tolerate. You'll have your answers very clear.
While it's not technically inflammation, some people can get digestive discomfort. That's a nice way of putting it.
It's inflammation, for sure. Basically, if you've got all this gas and bloating or constipation, strain opening bowels and all this kind of stuff, that's inflammation. We shouldn't experience that. This guy probably doesn't know what it's like to eat a meal and not have any complaints whatsoever. No acid reflux, no, I've eaten too much, no lethargy. You sit down and eat a big carnivore meal, you feel basically like you've just addressed your hunger and nothing else changed. You can get up and move around and be productive,
it when they eat foods that are high in FODMAPs. Some examples of these foods are wheat, rye, barley, onion, garlic, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, asparagus, beans, apples, apricots, avocados, peaches, pears, watermelon, cauliflower, mushrooms, and artificial sweeteners like maltitol, sorbitol, and xylitol. Ooh,
they're all just horrendous, so I would just stay far away from all of them, obviously.
that was a lot. If you notice a problem when eating some of these foods, try pulling them out of your diet for a couple weeks and see how you feel.